What's up, movie fans? Okay, so guys, this is actually going to be a pretty random video because to be totally honest, I wasn't even planning on seeing this movie and I definitely wasn't planning on reviewing it, but I saw the new movie Iron Lung with a friend the other day and I have so much to say about this movie that I decided I had to make a video about it, a full video. I don't know how long this video is gonna be, but I have a lot of very interesting thoughts. If you haven't heard of Iron Lung, this is a very fascinating movie because it is a new movie that is made by a YouTuber. This film is made by Markiplier. I don't think I need to introduce Markiplier. He is a pretty famous gaming YouTuber who has been a part of this platform for a very long time. And a few years ago, he played an indie horror game called Iron Lung, and then he made a movie about it, all by himself. This movie is written, directed, edited by, it stars him, it is just entirely his project. Obviously he had a crew helping him, but he did all of the main big things, and this movie is distributed by him. Because he couldn't find a studio that was going to distribute this movie the way that he wanted, so he distributed it himself. And it's doing very well. Typically indie films like this that are made entirely by one person, those movies don't do well, but this movie, because of the amount of influence that Markiplier has with his audience, this film was at number 1 on the box office for a little while. It was beating Send Help, the new Sam Raimi movie, which I imagine is a very large hurdle to clear. And it's also beating the Melania Trump movie, which is a much smaller hurdle to clear, but it cleared it. Yeah, no, Iron Lung, this is a film that it's really, really cool in, the world of filmmaking right now that this movie is doing so well because it kind of sends a message. You don't have to go through the typical, Hollywood system to get a movie made and distributed. If you have the money, you could just do it yourself, and that's just a cool message. So, Iron Lung is a movie that I really wanted to succeed. However, I will be totally honest, I wasn't that confident that the movie was going to be good. The reason why is Markiplier is a YouTuber. He's not an experienced filmmaker. He's not an experienced director. He's done cinematic type things on his channel before. I am actually a big fan of In Space with Markiplier. I love that entire Choose Your Own Adventure series that he did. Yeah, no, he's done cinematic type stuff before, but he's never made a movie to this scale, so I was nervous about that. Also, to be totally honest, I just think Iron Lung is a very weird video game to make a movie about, because if you don't know, Iron Lung is a game where it has a ton of lore to it, but the gameplay is you play as this guy who's locked in a submarine and he has to navigate this ocean of blood. And so, you move the submarine, and then you take pictures of what is outside the submarine. And that's the game. It's only an hour long. It all builds up to this big jump scare. That's the game. It's not particularly complex from a gameplay perspective. And so going into this movie, I was kind of is it actually just going to be 2 hours of Markiplier alone in a submarine? And the answer to that question is yes, that is indeed what this movie is. It is 2 hours of Markiplier alone in a submarine. But with that being said, It is a way more interesting movie than I was expecting it to be. I'm just going to come right out and say it right now. I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off. Iron Lung is a movie that I think is okay. I did not love it, but I definitely did not dislike it. I think that it is probably like a strong 6 out of 10. I am not like a huge fan of it, but it's not a movie that I could possibly call bad. Iron Lung is such a fascinating experience because I mean it when I say I have never seen a movie like this before. It is an insanely immersive film that puts you in the submarine with Markiplier. You truly feel like you, like him, are trapped in this tiny enclosed space in this ocean that is just horrifying because you truly know nothing about it. And as the movie goes on, the tension starts to rise as, I guess, minor spoilers, Markiplier starts to realize he's not the only thing in this ocean. It is a very fascinating film because I felt insanely immersed the entire time. This isn't a movie that I would recommend claustrophobic people watch because, yeah, no, it's not a very fun experience from that perspective. It's a movie where, like, it manages to create tension in interesting ways. It does cool things with light throughout the movie, where, like, there's an entire section of the film where the submarine goes dark and Markiplier has to rely on the light that's coming from the camera that he's using to take the photos outside. That's just insanely creative, and it is an insanely well-made movie. I am impressed. Once again, Markiplier's never made a movie before. He's just a YouTuber. And so I wasn't expecting this movie to be anything that special from a directorial standpoint. It was awesome. This movie looked amazing. The cinematography was genuinely phenomenal. Like, this is a very well shot movie. The other thing is Markiplier, he's not necessarily an experienced actor, but he does have experience being in front of a camera. Obviously, that's what he built his entire career on. And so, I'm just gonna say it, he's really good in this movie. His performance is phenomenal. I was very invested in his character. I genuinely really loved him in this movie. It's a movie that just, like, it knows how to ramp up the tension over the course of the story. At the start of this movie, Markiplier doesn't feel like he's in, like, that insanely perilous of a situation because he's talking on the radio to the people who sent him down into the ocean of blood. So, like, you feel like he kind of has a safety net. Like, there's people who know he's down there, they're in contact with him. And then, minor spoilers, about 30 minutes into the movie, that safety net goes away. He loses contact for reasons that I'm not going to go into. And from there, the movie, like, becomes a little bit more horrifying. It's a very weird movie where throughout this movie, as Markiplier's sanity starts to dip, he starts having these hallucinations where you're not entirely sure if everything that you're seeing on screen is real or not. The movie ends with just an insane sequence where just everything about the movie just comes together. It's a sequence that I think is kind of terrifying, very, very gross, but it's very well done. It's very disturbing. And so, like, yeah, from a directorial standpoint, absolutely insanely good movie. The reason why I think the movie is just okay is because this is a movie that I think has pacing issues. It gets very, very slow in the middle of the movie, and I do admit, like, that helped build the tension over time, but it also made it so that there were long stretches in the middle of this movie where I found myself kind of bored. I can't deny that. It's a movie where, like, there's a lot of people who really didn't like it, who are coming out of it calling it one of the most boring movies they've ever seen. And, like, I can't necessarily say that, because I think the first act of the movie and the third act are so engaging that I can't really call the full movie boring. But there were sections of that second act that I thought were very hard to get through. The other thing about this movie is this is such a confusing film. And it's confusing intentionally so. Markiplier the other day in a stream joked about, like, I made a movie so confusing that people have to see it twice. And I kind of do feel like, yeah, no, I feel like I have to watch this movie again at some point just to kind of take in all of the stuff that I missed about its story, because it is, like, such a weird story. It has such a weird script where, like, there's sections of this movie where there's supposed to be so much urgency, but the conflict is so vague and confusing and weird that it's hard to really feel that urgency. And I felt like that was kind of the other thing that kind of killed a lot of this movie for me and made it so that I don't think the film was necessarily as awesome as it could have been. I think that had they made a script that was maybe a little bit less confusing, like, I'm not saying it can't pose, like, questions, but I just think that, like, the conflict should have been more clearly defined. I think that that would have made the movie a lot better. I think if they had made more interesting stuff happen in the middle of this movie, that would have made the movie a little bit better. And I think maybe this movie could have been a strong, like, 8 out of 10 if you fix those issues. But as is, I do think I have to give this movie a 6 out of 10. With that being said, it's still a very fascinating movie. It's a movie that is having very different opinions online, where some people are coming out of it and they're absolutely loving it. Some people are coming out of it and saying that they hated it, it's boring, it's too confusing. And this is a movie where I came out and I was like, yeah, no, I get it. I get how you can see this movie and see it from either of those two perspectives. This is a film that I get why it's so divisive. But at the same time, I highly recommend you go see it, because this is a movie where, like, I don't even think you can take my word for it. You've gotta go see it and just experience it for yourself. It's also a movie that, like, you gotta see it because it is such a cool movie to exist right now. This movie that just doesn't have Hollywood support. It just came out and it got really, really big without Hollywood's blessing. And that's kind of cool. Like, I gotta say it. That's kind of cool. So yeah, no, I highly recommend you watch Iron Lung, even though it's not a movie that I was particularly insanely into. And Markiplier, if by some miracle you see this video, please make more movies, because you are an insanely good director. You have talent, and I genuinely do want to see what you can do with, like, other horror stories and stuff like this. So yeah, overall, Iron Lung, not a movie that I was insanely excited about, but I do think that you gotta check it out if you haven't yet. and it's way more worthy of your time than that frickin' Melania Trump movie. Okay, that's about it. See ya, movie fans.